outside and shit. Hey guys, in this video I am going to be sharing my teenage pregnancy story. So if you're interested in finding out the crazy shit that went down with me when I found out I was pregnant, when I was pregnant, being a teen mom, then keep on watching. Alright, so a little bit of backstory here. I was 14 and pregnant, 15 when I had my son. I was I don't want to say typical, because what the fuck is typical? I thought that I knew it all. I thought that I was super independent. I thought that I was just hella smart, and my parents gave me a lot of independence growing up, which I appreciate, because even though I got pregnant at such a young age, I still feel like the independence and the trust that they gave me made me grow up into who I am now. I appreciate what I went through and having my son so young, because it shaped me into the woman that I am today. I was kind of rebellious. I would do whatever the fuck I wanted. So I feel like having him kept me grounded, even though there was years that I still should have been a better mom and I should have been doing what I needed to be doing as a mother to him. But having that kept me a little more grounded. Like, I knew I had a baby to take care of at the end of the day. So it really kind of kept me on this path to being who I am now. I really thank my son for keeping that alive for me. If I didn't have him, I probably would have fucked my life off. Okay, so when I was 13, I mentioned I started to become sexually active, and it all happened pretty quick. It wasn't like a slow transition. It was kind of just like, bam, we're having sex. It was so easy to go to Planned Parenthood and get condoms, get lube. They're giving fucking 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds bottles of lube, which to me is kind of like that whole flavored tobacco thing. Like, you're giving these kids strawberry flavored condoms. So I'm all about giving condoms out, but when you're making it seem fun and flavorful, it's kind of hitting a different note. I'm thinking like, this is all just fun. Like, this is what you do. You have sex. I started dating my son's father when I was 13, and we pretty much had sex like quick. Like, there was not really a long like, ooh, you gotta wait 3 months before you give him the vagina. Like, it was kind of just like, it was horrible. And he was older. I think he was 16 when I met him, but he turned 17 pretty quick, and I became 13. So 13 and 17. I'm not even gonna go there. My parents knew about him. I told my parents. He started coming over and hanging out. I was able to sleep over at his house. He was able to sleep over at mine. And my mom got me to get birth control. And I was like, already been taking it, but like, okay. You know, kids are gonna do it anyways. Like, they're gonna have sex anyways. They're gonna get birth control. It's super easy to obtain. I'm glad that I had her there to be open and like remind me, like, you have to take your birth control, track your periods, like, stay on top of it, Brooke, you know, don't get yourself pregnant. So we hit like our 6 months. Ooh, 6 months together was like a long ass time back then.
Yeah, we're almost married now.
I think I turned 14, and that's when things started to change in my life. My mom moved away. My dad was my dad. He's always around, but not really like a proactive father. He didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear a fart. So there was no way you could talk about sex in front of him. There was actually a time where he freaking caught us having sex. Hella awkward. My brother was always throwing parties. There's people in and out of the house. Like I said, my mom wasn't there, and my dad just didn't care. So we were just free to do whatever the fuck we wanted. My parents ended up both moving to a city called Lee Summit. It's in Missouri, like right outside of Kansas City. And we fucking hated it. Like, we went there. We're from California, the Bay Area. Like, going to another state when it's snowing and being like snowed in, living with my grandma.
She had like fucking 50 birds in that house.
Like, it was not a good welcoming, like, hey, this is your new city. Like, we want to go home. Like, we want to go back. We miss our friends. Like, my brother had his girlfriend at the time who was still here, and I still had my child's father living out here. I ended up moving with one of my friends and her mom and her little sister, and that was kind of it. Like, to finish off the school year, I think it was around January when we moved. So yeah, until June, until school is let out. And I guess I lost track. Like, I remember taking my birth control often. I remember to take my birth control. Like, I know that I was taking it daily. But then some weekends, if I went and stayed at my child's father's house, I would forget to take it. Or I wouldn't take it with me. And then I would just take, like, the 2 or 3 pills that I had missed. Okay, so I remember my parents telling me it was time to come back. I started fucking up. Like, my grades were going down. I was ditching school. I was fighting. I got caught stealing. Steal it, take it to school, sell it to them, and that's how we made our money. My mom was like, you need to come back. Like, you and your brother need to come back. We're going to bring you in the summer to help you guys transition. We're going to fly. Like, I could take my child's father, and my brother was able to take his girlfriend. I feel like I have to sneeze. My mom was like, you know, we'll make it fun for you guys. We'll have a fun summer out here. So that was the plan, and that's what we ended up doing. But I noticed that I felt pregnant towards the end of the school year, like maybe around like early June. I started to feel really like just off and tired. My older sister was telling me, like, not at the time, but now that we were talking about it, she was like, you were always so tired and like you never wanted to do anything, like you lost all of your ambition. Like, she said that she could tell that I was pregnant, but I was always like, no, I'm taking birth control. I had my period, which I do remember having my period. But, and then I kind of suspected, like, maybe I am pregnant. Like, maybe I actually am pregnant. So we ended up moving, and I didn't have any symptoms. I guess I was tired, but I don't remember. We're like partying, we're swimming, we're freaking having paintball wars. We always went to play mini golf and stuff. I just completely lost track. By June, my child's father was like, have you had your period? I don't think you had your period all summer. We need to go to the store. So my brother asked if we could borrow the car. We didn't tell anybody at the time. So like, my brother didn't know, his girlfriend, nobody knew. We borrowed the car to go get a pregnancy test, which I stole. And then, horrible. God. The next day, we decided to go swimming, and I had a whole watermelon to cut up at the pool. I felt like shit. I didn't want to get in the pool. I just didn't want to get into the fucking pool at all. And I just wanted to sit there and eat that watermelon, which I did. I ate an entire watermelon within like a 1 hour span. Everybody else was swimming, and I sat there and just cut the watermelon and just cut chunks out and just ate it. And I got home and threw my guts up. And my brother's girlfriend was like, Brooke, like, I think you're pregnant. How did you eat a whole watermelon, and why did you throw it up? Like, what is going on with you? She's like, you need to take that pregnancy test. I took the pregnancy test, and it was positive. And my first feeling was kind of like this happiness, like, wow, like I created a life, you know, there's a baby in here. I felt really wholesome, which is a weird word to use. I just felt very full and like fulfilled. And I remember kind of wanting to smile, and then kind of realizing like, shit, like, what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do with yourself? This is a positive pregnancy test. Like, do you even know how to take care of a baby? So I went in and showed my child's father. He was like, well, you need to tell your mom. I'm like, okay. So I go in. I didn't know how to give her the pregnancy test. I was like, am I going to just go in and hand it to her? Am I going to sit down and talk to her about it? And then I have anxiety, so I froze. Like, I was walking in her room. She was laying down on the bed reading something, like reading a book. And I was like, Mom. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, I have to show you something. And she was like, the look on her face was like if she knew already. Like, she fucking knew it. Like, or maybe that was just my guilty conscience. But I basically like frisbee tossed the pregnancy test at her, and it landed right on her stomach, and she picked it up and she looked at it, and like she flipped it the other way. It was probably upside down, and that was it. Please don't show my dad. I don't know why I gave a fuck if he knew or not, because this guy did not care about shit. Like, I don't know why. I was more afraid of my older sister finding out. I don't know why. I was like, I just didn't want anybody to know. And I really wanted her to like be a friend and keep a secret for me. It wasn't like, oh, you're gonna be in trouble and you're gonna be grounded, because they didn't do that shit. It was just more so like, keep the secret. I'm still trying to accept it. I just found out myself. Don't fucking tell anybody. I didn't want people to know, and I was kind of embarrassed and ashamed. My brain just went somewhere else. And I went back in the room, and I was telling my child's father. I was like, okay, well, she knows, so call your parents and let them know. Him being, I think he was 18 at the time. It wasn't like a big deal. They were like, okay, well, what are you gonna do? Like, you gotta get a job. Telling my child's father he needs to get a job. Asking if we were going to live out in Missouri, if we were coming back to California. They were like super hands-on and just kind of like, this is it. Like, you guys are having a baby, get your shit together. They said if we wanted to live with them, it was perfectly fine, that we just had to pay bills and whatnot. Everybody found out. My brother's like, you're fucking stupid. All fucking hell broke loose. My child's father ends up getting thrown out of the house. Mind you, he's an 18-year-old. We're in a completely different state that's in a pretty rural area. I think we had to walk like 4 miles just to get to the main street, like the highway. And there's fucking nothing on the highway. There was like a little hotel, and then you're like miles, like fucking miles from like I think my high school and Walmart. There's like a Chinese restaurant. There really wasn't shit out there. He's broke, you know. My parents offered to fly him back and forth, so they kicked him out. He actually fought. He had like a physical fight with my dad. My dad like threw him out of the house. My parents were like, you're grounded. I was like, well, I don't fucking go to school. I don't know anybody out here. It's summertime. Like, what am I gonna do? You know, like, finding out. So my older sister, she's 11 years older than me. She was still living here in California with her boyfriend. She had no kids or anything like that, but she ended up finding out. And that was the person I was mostly afraid to let know. I was really worried to let her down. I felt like a lot of my disciplining came from her. So I was really scared to tell her. But somebody ended up telling her. And she called me. She's like, you know what? I'm going to fly my child's father back out to California. That way he's safe and he's back home. And I'm going to fly myself out to come visit you guys. Having a talk with her was hella helpful. It made me feel really good. I felt more secure and like I can actually do this. But my parents were like, no fucking way. You're getting an abortion. That's your only fucking option.
You're getting an abortion.
They like forced me to get on the phone and call Planned Parenthood. In no means or by no way am I meaning to talk shit about my parents for this or them forcing me. I know it's my body, my choice. I couldn't imagine being a parent and having your 14-year-old be pregnant and being scared. I can really understand where they were coming from and their concerns with me and wanting me to do what they thought was best for me. So in no way am I trying to like talk shit about them or anything like that. You know, I love my parents, but this was an abortion that they were trying to plan for me against my will. And I didn't want it. I'm extremely pro-life. I mean, I would never judge somebody for getting an abortion or choosing their other options at all whatsoever. But just for myself, I'm extremely pro-life. And I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I ever had an abortion. Having an abortion was not an option. I even considered adoption before. I was mentioning putting the baby up for adoption. My mom was like, no fucking way. Like, my sister put her daughter up for adoption. And she ended up hating life after that. So if anything, you're just going to have to get the abortion. Like, don't have the baby at all. I called Planned Parenthood and scheduled it. I remember going to the appointment. There were like 6 other girls and women. It was kind of like a little group therapy session where everybody in the room was kind of explaining why they needed to get the abortion. There was like a girl who was saying that, you know, she was 16 and her mom found out she was pregnant and her dad went on a business trip that weekend, so it was like her go time. Like, this was like perfect for her to have the abortion and her dad would have no idea. Another lady who was on like her 6th baby and she's like, there's no fucking way I'm having another kid. Like, I gotta get rid of this. And there was just people in there talking and explaining what they were doing, and I didn't really have, when it was like my turn to speak, I didn't really have some story like that to tell. It was kind of like I was trying to make something up that really seemed like I wanted to have the abortion, but I suck at lying and it's not what I wanted. So I'm like holding back tears. I'm like, I just can't, I'm only 14. Like, I can't have a baby right now. I just need this abortion, but I'm like fucking crying hysterically. And one by one, they'd call back to the ultrasound room, and this is where it got kind of weird for me, and I didn't know that it was weird until I was much older and realized that they didn't follow protocol. which had me remember when I first entered the Planned Parenthood, there were a ton of protesters out front with like the poster boards and like on the sticks, you know, like talking about abortion, and it was like a religious protest. It was really kind of a traumatic experience. But flashing back into the ultrasound room, the nurse, at first there were 2 nurses in there, and she's like, oh, okay, so you know you're pregnant, do you know how far along you are? And I'm like, I have no idea, I don't remember. I'm thinking I'm like maybe 4 weeks or so. Like, I have no idea. She's like, oh, okay, well, we'll show you, we'll find out right now, see what your options or what type of procedure they're gonna do. And one of the nurses stepped out of the room, and the other one turned the monitor of the ultrasound towards me. She's like, okay, here's your baby. And she puts the gel on. She starts to scan my stomach. She's like, oh, wow, you're already 10 weeks. You know what? And she zooms in. She's like, there's your baby's heartbeat. Your baby's alive. It has a heartbeat. Do you know that? And I was like, no, I don't really know about, you know. And she's like, yeah, well, it's alive and it has feelings. It can feel stuff. So what you're about to do is kill. You're about to kill your baby. Its heart's beating. It has feelings. It has a working brain. Like, this baby is alive and you're about to be a murderer. Do you want to be like that? I was like, oh shit. Like, no, this isn't what I want, you know? But I was just like, okay. Like, I just kept saying, okay, okay. And like trying not to cry. I was like terrified at this point, and I was wearing my cross necklace and I'm holding it like, please, Lord, forgive me. But it just felt sick saying forgive me about this, you know, like it was really, really rough. My parents wanted to pay for me to have the medication to where I'm like sedated. I wouldn't have to feel anything, and it would just help calm me down. So they gave me that pill. I have no idea what it was, but that shit fucked me up. They gave me the pill. It went all the way to the point of where I'm laying on the exam table with the doctors and nurses around. And I'm like crying, and they keep asking, do you want to do this? Like, is somebody forcing you to do this? Like, are you sure you want to go through with this? And I was like, I want to get it done. Nobody's forcing me anything. Like, I'm going to get this done. I'm just having a hard time with it. But it's okay. And the doctor was like, anytime if you want to stop, like, we can stop. Until the vacuum or whatever the fuck it's called is on, then you can't stop. It's going to be too late. But anytime up until then, you can just say stop. And I was like, okay. So I'm laying on the table. I have my gown. I'm like ready. And he fucking starts it up. And I'm like, stop. Stop. Right at that moment, it was like, we got a no-go. The fucking doctor just pulled me up off the table. He seemed really pissed off at me. The nurses are rushing me out. They take me to the recovery room that was full of like a bunch of recliners that were lined with absorbent padding. And there's like a bunch of ladies all sedated in there. I started hallucinating. I'm not sure. I know it was because of the medicine, but I'm not sure exactly what was real at this point. I know I was hallucinating, so maybe all those people weren't sitting in those recliners. They look like freaking lazy boys, which seem extremely unsterile to have women who just had abortions on fabric-lined lazy boys. I just don't I don't think that actually happened, but that's what I saw. And then the amount of women that were in there, I was like, wait a minute, like, what? We were just in a room with like maybe 6 to 8 people, and now there's like 30 ladies in here lined up watching a TV monitor on these lazy boys. And I remember the nurse coming to me and she's like, okay, well, we're just gonna watch you here for a little bit to make sure that the medicine wears off fine. And I was like, okay. And she's like, your parents are waiting for you and your boyfriend's waiting for you. And I was like, oh, did you tell my mom that I didn't get it done? And she was like, yeah, I told her. And I was just like, fuck, she's probably pissed. But I'm my mom's daughter, and we're hella strong-willed. We know what we want, and if we don't want something, it's not gonna happen. So she probably already suspected that I was not going to go through with it. I remember coming out of the Planned Parenthood, all the protesters were still there, and feeling extremely fucking high. I was like loaded on cloud 9. I didn't realize, like, I remember looking at my son's dad, like, oh, like, just hella out of it. The ride home was fucking insane. I remember cracking up. Like, I felt like I was so high, cracking up. And I remember seeing like people working on the side of the road, and I was like asking everybody like, what the hell, like why are these guys working on the road? And I remember them flying like the same speed of the car. The guys were work that whole time. Like we didn't just drive past them, they were like flying with us and working on the road really fast. And then I remember one like yelling something into the car at me, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, asking everybody, like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, why is he saying this shit to me? And my kid's dad was like, there's nobody even there. Like, what are you talking about? And that was it. Went home, passed out. The next day was his flight to leave and my sister's flight to arrive. And that's what happened. I think we just dropped him off at the airport and picked my sister up, and she took us to like Worlds of Fun or something like that. Me and my brother went. My brother's girlfriend also left. I think my brother was going with her. He was getting ready to go, and I was really upset that I had to stay in Missouri and be pregnant and the only kid in the house, and not know anybody, and starting a new school pregnant. So it was like my sister's little trip before, you know, my brother got to come back. He wasn't pregnant. His girlfriend wasn't pregnant. He just got to move back because I think he was 18 already. And that was the choice he made. So I remember going to Worlds of Fun and really wanting to get on roller coasters and ride the rides. And my sister was like, well,
you're pregnant, so you can't do that. Like, you can't have any fun.
You know, you can play at the arcade and that's about it now. Like, get used to it. I was like, fuck. Like, all right. And then school was gonna start. So my mom took me up to the high school there. They allowed me to have more walk time in between classes. So instead of having to make it by like the 3 to 5 minute bell, I had like 7 to 12 minutes. I didn't have to take a PE class. So instead of PE, the units or the credits were coming from a like a home ec class that kind of talked about pregnancy and like your health and whatnot. It was like a nutrition class also. It was one of the classes that I actually remember because there were 2 guys in there that were from the Bay Area that moved that same exact summer. Like one came out of Oakland and the other one came out of San Francisco. And having them in the class it was just kind of like a little bit of a homey feeling, you know, like I could actually relate to somebody, like they knew the music and the style and the interests, and I didn't really show until maybe like 16 weeks or so. So nobody really knew that I was pregnant, but I had to end up telling the guys because they were trying to get at me at one point, and I was like, yo, like I'm pregnant. They were like, damn. The look on their faces was like super let down, not because they couldn't get at me, but because I was pregnant, and I could feel that they actually felt sorry for me. Like they were like, damn, like that really sucks. And I was like, fuck, like these are like my friends who are telling me that it sucks, and it actually made me feel like it sucked. I think it actually hit me that people knew that I was pregnant and that I was showing, and that this was like really a human inside of me. I think when I first got pregnant, it was kind of just like, there's gonna be a baby one day that just shows up. I didn't really consider all of the things that come along with a pregnancy, like the doctor's visits and the body changes and the hormones and the whole thing. At that moment, I realized, like, fuck, I'm showing. Like, looking down, my pants weren't buttoning. My mom ended up taking me to Old Navy. That's when they had Old Navy maternity clothes still in the store, and like bought me hella maternity clothes. I felt so much better. And then she actually told me that that I can move back to California. She's like, if you can move with, you know, my boyfriend's family, you can go back to California. It was like a huge relief, a super huge relief, because I hated it. I hated it there in Missouri. Sorry if you're from Missouri. I fucking hated it. It wasn't for me at all. By this point, it was October, November. And I was trying to call my child's father to let him know that I could move out here. And he was like hell of avoiding me. He didn't want to talk to me. He started to be really fucking rude. He didn't treat me the same anymore. It was kind of like our whole like friendship and relationship just went to shit Like, I think he realized coming back and living away from me, he had his own freedoms and he kind of was living a single life. Well, now I know it wasn't kind of a single life. He was extremely single. Apparently people didn't know that I was pregnant or anything like that. He was kind of just like blowing me off. And I remember going from feeling hella good, like, yes, I can move out there. I can be back with my own friends. And just feeling relieved. You know, I was going to be back home. And he was like not wanting shit to do with me till I found out that the baby was a boy. And I got a hold of him and let him know that we were having a boy. And he was really excited about that. And he's like, okay, cool. And he's like, I think we should start telling people that you're pregnant. I was like, okay, like I'm ready for that, because I didn't want to just go back and run into friends at the store, or what school am I going to go to? You know, I didn't want to just pop up with this big old belly. People knew that I moved out of state, but they didn't know that I was pregnant. My sister ends up, like the same day, my older sister ends up telling me that she ran into one of my friends and that she told my friend that I was pregnant. And I was fucking pissed. I was like, no, like crying. I felt kind of like I should have been able to tell people, like, this is my pregnancy. I should be able to let people know. And her response was just like, yeah, well, you got this big belly. People are going to know anyways. People are going to talk about it. So get used to it, you know. I still felt like I should have been the person to be able to tell people, you know. I should be the one to announce it. It's my pregnancy. So I ended up telling people, and I ended up telling one of my friends who I remember is also a teen mom. She told me about the school that she went to. I didn't know much, but I knew that she went to a school that was helping pregnant and parenting teens still get their, you know, diploma and graduate high school. So I asked her about it. She let me know the name. My mom was like, since you're moving back to California and you're getting ready to have this baby, you got to get all of your stuff, like get all of your ducks in a row yourself, like figure this out yourself. So make sure you have insurance, make sure you know where you're going to be living for sure and what the rent is, if you have bills, like get everything going. I had turned 15 too, and during like in August, so a little bit before she told me that I could move. She's like, you need to get all your stuff together, make sure you get into school, make sure you finish school. I was like, okay, I got this. So I started calling the school. They told me there was space available. They were gonna put me on the it wasn't really a waiting list, it was just like the ready to enroll list, which I'm super glad that I did at the time, because it ended up skyrocketing. It actually became a waiting list to where we had like freaking 50, 75, 100 people on that waiting list within the year that I was going there, which is fucking crazy. They took students as young as 12. So anyways, I ended up moving back. I get a flight. My child's father picks me up from the airport. He picked me up from the airport and I said bye to my mom. Like, I'm going to his house. His parents were all waiting for me. They were all waiting for me, that his family, his aunts, like they were basically having like a welcome back party for me. Like dinner was made. It was extremely welcoming, and and then my pregnancy was hell from there on out. It was fucking horrible. Horrible. I can't even go into detail. About the kind of stuff that I endured when I was pregnant. Or the type of abuse that I went through. Shit, my eyes keep watering, crying. Damn it. You know, my mom ended up going back to Missouri, and I was living with my child's father and his family, which I'm extremely thankful that I had his family there to support me. For the school that I went to, I'm extremely thankful for, because I ended up meeting a lot of friends, other girls that were pregnant and teen moms, some on their second and third kids, you know, and we're like 16 and under. We all hung out with each other. Our babies all were hanging out together. My labor with my son was 14 hours long. I had the hardest time pushing him out. The cord was stuck around his neck a few times. I had a natural delivery with him. I didn't want any sort of pain medication or anything. It was a really traumatic birth experience. I had to get a full episiotomy, and if you don't know what an episiotomy is, that's where they actually cut from the vagina to the rectum, so that entire space is just open. Yeah, his heart rate was like really, really down. He didn't cry when he came out. Really traumatic. And my life completely changed. It completely changed from, I don't want to say the moment that I found out that I was pregnant, but it completely changed from the moment that I started going back to high school in Missouri. Seeing the difference, being treated differently, the amount of responsibility. I thought that I was responsible before, like when I was partying and shit. I thought that I was responsible then. You know, get home on time, clean up after yourself, do your homework, stay out of trouble. You know, those were my responsibilities. Wash your own fucking clothes. But, you know, now these were different responsibilities. Make your doctor's appointment. Cook, clean up everything. Clean up after the whole household. Get to school on time. Make sure you have a ride to school. How are you getting home from school? How are you going to pay for that ride if your boyfriend can't give you a ride? Where's your money coming from? You know, stay out of fucking trouble. Like, you can't go and steal hella shit and sell it because you're getting ready to have a baby. You don't want to fucking have a baby in jail, do you? Keep yourself healthy, which is something that I always kind of took for granted. Like, you can fucking junk around and eat Taco Bell and do this and that. No, you got a baby. You got to remember to take vitamins. And it's just a completely different amount of responsibility, or a different caliber of responsibility that you take on when you decide to get pregnant. But being a teenager, and since I was so young, it just kind of was thrown out there like, your life is completely fucking different now. Because I was so young, I was 15 at this time, they would send a nurse, like from the county, the clinic nurse, to come to the house to do like well people checks, to make sure you were taking care of your baby and the baby was gaining weight, and show you how to do things if you never learned how to do it or no one was there to teach you. I don't need this. Like, I got this. You just want to make sure that I'm not smoking crack and like leaving my baby on the floor all day with the dogs. But like, go ahead, come inside. Tell me what I need to know. I did end up graduating from high school. I graduated a year early. The campus staff was super helpful. The teachers were so fucking helpful. They made it so like easy, I want to say, in a sense, for us to graduate and to get our diplomas and finish high school and still be able to have our kids and take care of our kids too. It was awesome. I feel like I got lucky that I was able to find something like that. I'm extremely blessed for that. I wouldn't have graduated without that school. I tried to go to college afterwards, but I didn't. I started and then I stopped, and you know, I kind of just did my thing. I worked for a while and I fucking partied like crazy. My mom would babysit. I ended up moving back. My parents ended up moving back. They all ended up moving back to California, and I ended up moving back with them. So my mom was like hella helpful, and she helped with the baby a lot. They babysat whenever I needed to. I was able to regain my social life. I worked. I just was doing everything you'd expect to do as just a regular mother, except I was 17 years old at the time. And so me and his dad were off and on through a lot of that time. And by 19, I was pregnant with my second son, which was a completely different walk in the park than being 14 and pregnant. God, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Some really heavy feelings just came back from sharing this story. Really fucking heavy feelings and like memories that are just, maybe I just suppressed them so I wouldn't have to deal with it. Okay, so I did get asked some questions. The first question is asking, what did you miss out on? I mean, all the basic shit, honestly. Like, I can't even, my mom was super helpful. By the time it was like time to go to like house parties and whatnot, I feel like the biggest thing I missed out on was prom. But the school that I went to offered a prom for us. It wasn't like a regular high school prom. they still had a prom. I didn't go to that because I didn't want to. I could have. I don't really think I missed out on anything that was like a teen experience. You know, I don't even know what teens do. Just the freedom maybe of just getting up and leaving. I had to pack a diaper bag first or call and get a babysitter. I get asked that question a lot. I don't really know what I missed out on. The next question is, how was it when your baby was sick? One, I think he had colic, when he was like a month old, and he cried all fucking night long. Like, I laid in bed, I cried with him. I remember my son's abuela coming in, like, what's wrong with him? And I was like, I don't know, he won't stop crying. We tried everything. I called the advice nurse. So it'd be like a lack of sleep. He didn't really get sick all like that. And if he did, it was like a runny nose and just all the kids in the daycare would be sick. But it was still gross. Like I said, there's like this turning point of where you realize what your responsibilities are and you have to fucking go full force. Like, and I was determined to be a good mother and take care of my son properly. There were like girls at school that wouldn't do that or didn't give a fuck. Like, their babies were really dirty. And just like not even fed or taken care of. I didn't want that. It never even crossed my mind that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, because I knew I was doing what I needed to be doing for my son. So when he was sick, I fucking gave him Tylenol, Motrin, kept his fevers down. Like, that was it. Another time he was really sick to the point of where we had to stay in the hospital, and he was admitted for bronchiolitis. I think we were in the hospital for like a week almost, 5 days. And I did what I needed to do, like what any other mother would do, is take care of her baby. Where were you mentally and emotionally at 14? Mentally, I was immature as fuck, but I thought that I knew everything. I thought that I was on top of the world. I thought I had everything figured out. And if it wasn't going to go a certain way and I need something, I knew how to get it. Emotionally at 14, I was a wreck. I know that there was like a lot of just weird shit going on in my mind. A lot. And I don't want to get into it on this video. Yeah, because that's some heavy shit. I'm not going to go there. And how did you cope financially? My child's father worked and I stayed home. So that was what I did. I didn't have to work or anything. We never went on to any public assistance. Like, there was no food stamps or welfare or anything like that, because he worked a good job. My son's father worked a good job, and all the bills were taken care of. We lived with his parents. We contributed to that, groceries, bills. I could see how heavy that could be on some people, like especially if you don't really have supportive parents and you're kicked out, like really, because rent is expensive as fuck. But we didn't have that problem at all, thankfully. Crazy enough to say that this was fucking 15 years ago. My son is about to be 15 in just a couple months. I can't believe that he's the age that I was when I had him. It's crazy. I've been super open with him about all of this, and I mean, he's been here for the whole ride with me. He's lived this journey of having a young ass teen mom, teen parents. I'm just gonna insert some pictures so you can see. It's been a wild ass ride. All right, that pretty much sums it up for this video. If you have any comments or questions down below, go ahead and write whatever. Thank you for watching this video. I have more videos to come, so please subscribe, like, whatever. If you want to see more. Fucking suck. I suck at recording outros. It's like, I don't want to say goodbye. I don't want to say